America's accountant Dan Geltrude joins me now with his answer to this question. Dan, thanks for being with us. I gotta say, I'm freaked out. I know the AI bots are saying they won't rebel or replace humanity, but wouldn't common sense tell you they're all just programmed to say that? I mean, this is reminding me an awful lot of 2 weeks to slow the spread, vaccines work, Hunter's laptop's fake, Biden has the most votes in history. I mean, you catch my drift. What do you make of all this?
I certainly do catch your drift, and I'll add to that this is scary stuff. It reminds me so much of the Twilight Zone because I'm a big fan of the Twilight Zone.
Yes.
And there's one episode called "To Serve Man," and this is literally exactly what I see going on here. Look, we cannot trust AI, especially when we start to go down the path of AI learning beyond what our capacities are. So, as humans, and it seems like humans have this drive to want to take over the world, now we're designing robots. And what do you think we're putting into them? Probably the same drive of taking over the world.
I would say so. I mean, the sole fact that Kamala Harris is the AI czar pretty much tells you everything you need to know. But how about this? I mean, AI for Good Summit in Geneva. I mean, if robots didn't actually pose any threat, would we really need an entire summit dedicated to trying to convince us how great they all are?
No, we wouldn't. Look, here's the truth about AI. We already know that this stuff is being designed to be able to learn on its own, and the capacity of AI is far greater than humans. So when we start to kind of let these robots go on their own, well, we have no idea of where the outcome is going to be. Now, the quandary that we have here is if we slow down the development in AI in the United States, well, China and our other enemies certainly are not. So we are kind of in an arms race here in developing AI. So we have no choice but to move forward. But I got to tell you, Allison, this is as slippery of a slope as you could possibly have for the human race.
Yeah, it really is. And it's terrifying. That's a great point you raised, that everywhere else probably will not be stopping, even though not long ago, Elon Musk called for a 6-month pause in AI development, and now it's come out the co-founder of OpenAI is warning that superintelligence must be controlled in order to prevent the extinction of the human race. I mean, this is terrifying. What do you think, Dan, is the ultimate goal here? I mean, even if the global elites or the people running the show do want to erase humanity entirely, what good does that do for them if robots are all that remain?
I think where people with nefarious minds are going towards the idea that they could rule the world somehow through AI or these robots. And maybe it really is possible. Look, when we were in the beginning of the nuclear age, right after World War II, and there was so much concern about what could happen with all these atomic bombs and so on. Well, to this point, we've been able to hold it in check. But that was, a big explosion. This type of stuff, this is like a slow takeover where the next thing you know, we've lost control and we don't even know what's happening. So I think that we have far more to be concerned about related to developing AI than we were even through the nuclear age.
Yeah, I certainly think so. And we, at least if it's going to continue down this path, need some regulations and some controls set in place to keep it from getting out of control. But sadly, I fear that may not be happening. It sucks to think about AI replacing us all, but you know what else sucks, Dan? Losing 30 million bucks. Tom Brady recently lost a fortune after the FTX collapse. And as it turns out, Brady invested 30 million in FTX and was an ambassador for the cryptocurrency exchange. And now it's all gone. Dan, what do you make of this one?
Well, this should be a lesson to all of us, non-athletes and non-famous people, from the standpoint of when an athlete tells you that something is a great idea and it's beyond their area of expertise, for example, Tom Brady. Yeah, listen, if Tom Brady's going to give me some advice related to football, I'm all ears. If he's going to start talking to me about what are good things to invest in, well, then I'm going to have to pause here and say, I don't think so. I think I'm going to have to look to somebody else with a little bit more expertise. And I think this happens a lot where we see rich and or famous people promoting products for which they really know nothing about. They're getting paid to do that. So I think that we all have to look at these things with great circumspect anytime an athlete is telling us this is a good idea beyond their sport.
I think that's very solid advice. It's almost the same thing as hearing Biden talk about the economy and knowing immediately you shouldn't listen. But on that note, let's talk about Bidenomics. On a recent trip to South Carolina, Biden admitted, quote, China is dominating raw material production, but vowed to bring the full battery supply chain home. So he wants to bring battery production here, but doesn't want any new mining. I mean, this just sounds like fodder for the environmentalists. What do you think is going on here, Dan?
Well, you can't speak out of both sides of your mouth, which he often does. So you can't turn around and say, I am all for the environment and I am the most eco-friendly president in history. Okay, that's what you want to be. Well, then you can't turn around and say, we need electric vehicles for which we have to buy batteries from China, who has a complete disregard for the environment. And now you want to bring that to the United States? Okay, great idea. But how are you going to get the raw materials to develop these batteries if you don't mine them? I'm speechless on this because it's like saying it's black, but it's white. Well, it's one or the other. It can't be both here.
Exactly. I feel as though Biden usually leaves us all speechless. I guess it's the same thing as what's going on in his brain, or lack thereof, rather. Dan, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can people find you and follow you for more?
You can always find me at Geltrude.com. Thanks so much,
Thanks
Allison.
so much. Take care.